Most daily drinkers waste months, if not years, trying to stop nighttime drinking using willpower and moderation rules. But they miss the 5 critical steps for stopping cravings that should be baked into every evening. So in this video, I'm going to show you the exact 5-step system that I use to break a 10-year daily drinking pattern, and that over 200 different professionals have used to stop drinking within 72 hours and maintain that for at least 100 days, all without white knuckling or fighting themselves. And yet it works every single time. You need to understand the strategy we're going to use to stop cravings and why it's so powerful. So let me show you what we actually track with clients right now so that you can see how it works. Check out this scorecard right here. Now for some of you, 3 days without alcohol is going to feel like nothing. For others, it feels impossible. But the reason tracking the first 72 hours like this is a complete game changer is because most people who relapse do it in the first week. And if you can make it past day 1 with the right sequence, your brain immediately starts rewiring. So across the last 100 clients in the Alcohol Freedom Program, here's what we've tracked. Day 1's achieved within 72 hours. Negotiation minutes, how long they spend thinking and debating about alcohol. Craving intensity, this is a 1 to 10, and we're tracking whether it drops from an 8 or a 9 down to 3 or 4 within 3 minutes of using the strategy. And the reason I'm so confident that this works is because we're not tracking motivation or how strong you feel. We're tracking the actual chemistry, how fast the craving fades, how long the negotiation lasts, whether you make it past day 1. So let me show you what this looked like for one of my clients. This is David, a CFO, functional professional. Day 1 of using this strategy, craving intensity started at a 9, it dropped to a 4 in 3 minutes. Negotiation time, 2 minutes. Day 1 achieved in 72 hours? Yes. Now you can see on this graphic, here's what's happening with this strategy. A craving hit, 9 out of 10 at 6 p.m. You use a 3-step sequence. Step 1 drops cortisol, step 2 generates dopamine, step 3 breaks the thought loop. Within 3 minutes, that 9 went to a 3 or a 4. So these are the 3 steps that are basically working together all the time to reprogram your evening response. And by tracking my clients over the first 72 hours that they're alcohol free, I realized that when they use all 3 steps in sequence, not just 1 or 2, but all 3 in sequence, 73% say that their cravings are very manageable. And these are stats from clients who are hitting day 1 alcohol free within 72 hours of enrollment, because they're not fighting the craving with willpower, they're redirecting it mechanically. But that's not the best thing about this for daily drinkers who are professionals. Imagine if you could use this strategy not only once, but every single evening for 2 weeks. You're not just stopping one craving, you're retraining your brain's automatic response. And once that rewires, the evening drinking loop completely disappears. That's exactly what I'm going to show you how to build right now with a very simple 5-step strategy. So step 1, this is really important because if it fails, the other steps won't save you. So all you need to do is one very specific thing for 30 to 60 seconds. Now this is to soothe. When the craving hits, the first thing you do is drop your cortisol immediately. I'm going to show you exactly how to do this so you can do it yourself. So for me to drop the cortisol, that's putting cold water on my wrists for 30 seconds. Literally go to the bathroom or the kitchen and run cold water over your wrists and start counting. And that's it. Now this activates the vagus nerve. The cortisol drops and the craving intensity immediately starts falling. Now the problem is that people try to overcomplicate this. They think that they need to meditate for 20 minutes or they need to do breath work for half an hour. It doesn't work like that. Your craving is driven by elevated stress chemistry. If your stress stays high, craving stays high. So the strategy I teach is really simple. You want 30 to 90 seconds of nervous system reset. Pick one. Cold water on your wrist for 30 seconds, splash cold water on your face, step outside for fresh air, 2 rounds of 4-7-8 breathing. That's inhaling for 4 seconds, holding for 7, and then exhaling for 8. Repeat. And that's it. Clients tell me that when they do this alone, it cuts the craving intensity by 30 to 40%. Now, when you first start doing this, don't overthink it. You don't need the perfect technique. Don't worry about what part of your wrist, just go for it. You just need one thing that drops your stress chemistry fast. Cold water is the easiest because it's instant and requires 0 skill, and you can pretty much do it anywhere. You can always excuse yourself to go to the bathroom and do it there. Now this brings us on to step number 2, and this is going to generate your own dopamine, which replaces the fake dopamine which you would have gotten from alcohol. So when you generate real dopamine from movement, your brain stops asking for the fake dopamine from alcohol. And that's where the craving actually fades. So we really need to get that dopamine hit. So for this step, what you want to do is ask yourself, what's the fastest way I can move intensely for 30 to 60 seconds? And then do it right after step 1, Soothe. So this intense movement is simply any physical effort that spikes your heart rate for 30 to 60 seconds. Pick one: jumping jacks, walking up and down the stairs twice, dancing to a song, a brisk walk around the block. And I mean, it makes sense, right? If your brain gets a dopamine hit from movement, it stops asking for the alcohol hit that follows. Now, this brings us on to step number 3, which is the bridge between the craving to craving free. And it works like this. So have a look at these 2 clients. The first one here soothed and moved, but they didn't redirect. Craving dropped from a 9 to a 5, but then 10 minutes later it came back at a 7. The second one used all 3 steps in sequence. The craving dropped from a 9 to a 3 and stayed at a 3. Why is this happening? Well, it's because step 3 breaks a thought loop. Your craving isn't just a chemical spike, it's a mental script that keeps running on a 90 to 120 second cycle. And if you can interrupt that loop for just 2 minutes, your brain literally forgets it wanted alcohol. So what you need to do is this. Right after you move, you switch your brain's focus completely for 2 minutes. Pick something that requires active attention. Can be organizing a drawer, reply to 3 text messages, prepare tomorrow's clothing, read 1 page of a book with a timer. And that's it. Switching focus for 2 minutes just makes all of the difference. So imagine if you use these 3-step sequence every single evening for 2 weeks when you had a craving. You're not just stopping that one craving in the moment, you're starting to retrain your brain's automatic response every single time. And this is a complete game changer. And so this brings us on to step number 4, which is the solution to a massive problem all of us face when we're trying to quit drinking. So, trigger identification and avoidance have been around forever now. And because of that, the chances are you've probably already heard the same advice 1,000 times over. Avoid people, places and things, step away from the bars, don't keep alcohol in the house. And if you use any advice that generic, it just kind of wrecks your success because you don't know what specific situations are your triggers. So you either avoid everything or you avoid nothing. But how can you possibly know which specific situations are your danger zones before you've even attempted to stop drinking? Well, you can't predict every single trigger in advance, but that doesn't matter. Ask yourself, when did I drink in the last week? When you answer that question, you'll start to see your own pattern in a unique way. It might be that it's 5 p.m. at the kitchen. Another one might be in the TV room at 7 p.m. Another one might be when your wife goes to bed. And when you start asking yourself, when did I drink? You'll start to see the patterns and they'll become obvious when you write them down. Now let me show you why this matters. This is James. He tried to stop drinking many times. He told me he always jumped into day 1 and he'd never mapped his triggers before, and he always relapsed because he didn't know which triggers he was walking into. Where this is Sarah, she asked herself that question, what are my triggers? When did I drink last week? And so the different triggers that she identified, she avoided for the first 14 days. Now, by talking to my clients, most of them had tried to stop drinking in the past, but none of them had identified all of their triggers and planned to interrupt and avoid them for the first 14 days. Now, that always led to a relapse. Once they're in the program, this is the first thing that we do before they even have day 1, so they're fully prepared. And then after day 14, once you're through the physical detox, you can face those situations and those triggers head on because they're not physical cravings anymore. They're going to be social and emotional triggers, and you'll address them differently. And this brings us on to the next step, and it's the glue that holds the entire strategy together. So you'll see that we always get consistent day 1s and consistent craving drops. And look what it's done for my client scoreboards. It's crazy, right? Okay, so it works like this. So imagine you use this strategy for 3 days and then you realize that step 2, the movement, is where your craving drops the fastest. For you, it's jumping jacks that cut the craving from a 9 to a 4 every single time, while the cold water only drops it from a 9 to a 7. When you know this and you have this data, all you need to do is double down on step 2. You add variety. Instead of just jumping jacks, you try stair walking for 1 day. You try dancing to the next song. You go for a brisk walk on the 3rd day. And you track specifically which movement drops your craving intensity the fastest. And if you track all 3 steps over the first week, you'll notice that one of them is cutting the craving intensity faster than the others. And then you've just identified your leverage point, the step that works best for your specific brain chemistry. Now, is tracking an essential step? Not really, but if you never do it, you're never going to be fully optimized. For example, this client tracked for 5 days. They realized that redirect worked best for her, so she doubled down on that step. The average craving drop went from 9 to a 3. So that's why tracking which step works best for you matters. Because if you don't know which step is your leverage point, how are you going to optimize the sequence for you? So if you use these 5 steps every single evening for the next 2 weeks, I can pretty much guarantee that you're going to stop your physical cravings. But managing your physical cravings is just the first step, because here's what most people don't realize. There are different types of cravings. There are physical cravings, which is what this video solves for, but there are also mental cravings, social cravings, and emotional cravings. And unless we deal with all 4 types, we're always going to end up going back to drinking. So this 5-step strategy is a key part in the overall system, but it's not the whole process. To learn how to manage all of the cravings, watch this video right here, and I'll walk you through everything.